Okay, so you've set up your Google Drive. If you haven't watched the video or if you don't have your Google Drive already set up, please stop and watch the tutorial on setting up your Google Drive first before you move any further. This video is all about the UbD 2.0 doc. What goes in there? What should you do? What's your timing? All of that. The goal is to start this work this summer, basically from July 1st to August and when we return to school before your teachers come back. You want to set yourself up for success because once the school year starts, it's really hard to go back, and you want to spend the school year sharing resources and building out your modules. So this work really is designed to be done over the summer if at all possible. So we are still in stage 2 curriculum design. Again, the first video was just about setting up your Google Drive. Now let's dive into the actual UbD doc. So if I go to my Google Drive, if you set it up correctly, in your starred folder, there should be the course. I open it up, and here I'm all set up from when I did it, and I can go right into Unit 1, time to get started. So when I go into Unit 1 and I open up my UbD doc, the first thing I want to do is I want to sit here and I want to make sure the title is correct. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to change this title. So instead of copy of, I'm going to come up here and just go department. Now, again, it's a fake course, so you would put math, science, art, music, whatever. UbD 2.0, you type out the title of your course. This is Unit 01, and whatever the title of my unit is going to be, for argument's sake, I'm going to put introduction, right? Then I'm going to come here, and I'm going to type the title of my course. Now, you want to make sure that it has this Creative Commons license on it, which it should, but that's definitely something we need to make sure is on every document. The first thing we want to do is put in our unit number and our title, introduction. I should tell you, everything that's blue is normally something you have to change. Everything that's red are directions. And when you're done a section or what they call a stage, we'd like you to just change it all to black, just to say I'm done. The duration of the unit, if you are a high school teacher in Garden Valley School District, we'd like you to talk in terms of cycles. A cycle would include 3 class meetings during the shortened period and 1 block meeting. So however that works out, we don't worry about breaks or weekends or this, it's just number of cycles. Standards-based performance tasks, if the assessment for this unit requires a project and that project's going to take time, and let's say it takes a whole cycle to do, you want to let the person know that it's going to be about a cycle worth of time. And then a unit summary, you just type a general unit summary of what to expect in this unit. Now, first thing we want to start with is establish goals. This is where you're going to identify your focus and important standards for this unit. The number one mistake that we see in UbD curriculum writing, our teachers go back to the old college or when you had to turn in formal lesson plans, and they search the standards and say, oh, I touch on this one, this one, this one, this one. We really want to know, what are the focus standards? Not every standard that you necessarily touch on, but what ones do you want to assess and focus on for this unit? So you could say focused and list them. You could put important. Those standards might be ones that you touch on but aren't going to be super assessed at this time. And then we always give room to write goals. And the goals could be things that might not be directly stated in the standards that you want your students to know. Generally speaking, what I tend to tell our curriculum writers to do is just delete this because we want to keep it nice and clean. And we go focus, important, and goals. Goals. What you put here are literally the codes. So you don't want to be sitting here writing out everything. I know all the PA standards have like different codes and stuff, but we've all seen things like 3.A.10.2, and that's it. You don't want to put anything more than that. We try to keep this document as clean and concise as possible. Now, the reason we have this standards and goals link is once you're done that, right? And again, I turn it black once I have my codes lit, listed. I copy those, and under standards and goals, I open that up. And for unit 01, I can take these. And again, I apologize for the delay. There's always a little bit of time when you're taking video. Do the paste. And then here is where I have to actually sit there and type out the description of the standard, because this is where we want to be able to go and say, okay, in unit 1, here's the standard, here's the descriptor. In unit 2, this allows us to see all the standards for the whole course designated by unit, so we can see the vertical progression. Now, some teachers said, wait a second, if our standards only come from the PA state document and there's no goals and it's all there, can we just put a link to the PA state standard like document? The answer is absolutely yes. So you either link to the document, which is set up to do, and you type them all out, or if just standards, you can just change this link to the actual state standard document. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about so that you can see this in action. And I believe if I go elementary math, and then let's do grade 3 again, and I go unit 1. So here's their UBD doc. I open it up. And right here, so you can see it's their title. I know I said if you're in a secondary level, we want to talk in terms of cycles. If you're at an elementary level, we want to talk about instructional days, because we don't want to worry. We know we're going to lose some instructional days, so it should be a generalization of instructional days. And I always like putting the word about, because it's a, we give freedom for teachers to go one day here or there. But you can see they have focused, their eligible content, their goals. And if I click here where it says eligible content, you'll see this link. And if I click that link, it just takes me directly to the state's eligible content document. So they don't have to write out all of that eligible content. But if I click here for the standards and goals, this is where the standards and goal page comes up, and you can see they wrote out the actual standard right there so that I can see it. So this was really well done, a great example of the expectation for what I'd like to see you do on your UBD goals. Transfer skills. When we talk about transfer skills, we are talking about big overarching skills. These are 2 to 3 per unit. You can repeat them unit to unit, and they should be the big picture things that aren't specific necessarily to any content. For example, you can talk about students will be able to independently use their learning to interpret our author's voice in writing, to be able to persevere in mathematical challenges and problem solving, to be able to formulate arguments and communicate effectively with peers. Those are the skills that you really want to teach. Too often we lose the skills, and we want to make sure we're really clearly stating those. So again, delete the red, and you just list 2 to 3 of those transfer skills. A lot of times the state standards have those transfer skills built into the standard. So again, going back to this one, you can see their transfer skills: make sense of problems and persevere in solving them, reason abstractly and quantitatively, model with mathematics. Very big overarching ideas. Down here, overarching understandings. Again, this starts to drill a little more into content, but we're not specifically stating your SWABOT yet. So students will understand that, and you put in some overarching understandings. These then become your essential questions. Again, I would recommend you definitely check out the state SAS site. If they have a curriculum framework, they have a lot of understandings and essential questions that you could maybe pull from, but you can put whatever you want here. Going back to our example here, will learn that mathematical relationships among numbers can be represented, compared, and communicated. Notice it's more specific than this. It's starting to drill down, but it's not yet saying, we'll understand that 3 plus 3 equals 6. And then you turn those right into your essential questions. So that is your overarching understandings and your essential questions. So you do those. Then you come down to your acquisition skills. So the acquisition skills are where you're going to put in your students will be able to, right? So notice it says students will know and be able to. In old understanding in old curriculum writing, we used to separate those two. So we used to say, okay, students will know this and they will be able to do this. We now combine them. I really encourage you to use a very structured sentence format. Students will know blank and be able to blank, because when you put it in that set structure, it really, really helps. And going back to our example here, if I click the acquisition skills, you will see it says students will know that place value is important when operating with numbers and be able to use place value to represent and round numbers, as well as order and compare to show relationships. It's a little wordy, but it's very clear on here's what they will know, here's what they will be able to do with that. So you're just drilling deeper and deeper into those acquisition skills. So again, my goal or your goal should be, before you come back to school, you should have this stage 1 and this top box of every unit complete, because that really is the why you're teaching and what you're teaching. Then when you get back to school, you should work with your department throughout the year. Stage 2 is the evidence. It's the summative assessments. So this is where you actually put a link to your actual test. So you need to link the test here, and over here you link the answer key or the rubric. Now, not all things are tests. Sometimes they're projects, and that's completely fine. You link the project, you link the rubric here. So it's very clear. Your other evidence are your formative assessments. They might be the same thing throughout. For example, it could be class discussions, exit tickets, whatever you might do. There might also be some assignments or activities that you do that aren't the whole summative assessment, but really give you a good idea as to whether your students are mastering this content. You would link them there and put the rubric or the key here. This is really only evidence. So if it's just an activity that's based for learning, that does not go here. These are meant to be the evidence. Now, here's one crucial piece. We have to have a copy of any document that you link on here. And those copies get housed in the main folder. So let me give you an example of exactly what I'm talking about here. So if I go to, let's just choose a different one. We'll go science and EvoBio, right? So this is a high school evolutionary bio course. If I open up any unit, you will see here's the UbD doc. You see this random document that says Sci EvoBio Unit 2 Assessment Bank. That's because in this UbD doc, when I open it up, and again, we should be seeing all the same thing, the title, the duration, the module. Here's the standards, and you'll see a link. Again, you can see that this is an example of maybe not focusing on the ones that you're really focusing on. So we want to clean that up a little. Transfer skills, using tangible pieces of evidence for evolution to create, they're very general. It dives down. He has his acquisition skills, but then here we go. When we get to evidence, here's an example. Unit 2 assessment bank. Notice there's a link. And when I click that assessment bank, it opens up the document that is right there, that assessment bank. And what ends up opening up is the test, the assessment that this teacher plans on using. Now, there is nothing that says that we have to assessment, and that's it. A couple different assessments. Any assessment put in this summative assessment bank is what we expect our teachers to use as a common assessment. So if there's multiple ones, we're saying you can choose from any one of these. We agree that they all meet the requirements to assess learning. Other evidence you can see, he talks about jigsaws, direct instructions. Some are more specific than others, but I just to give you another example of what's going on there. Typically, you build this out with your department or with your grade levels as you work throughout the year. You say, okay, what do we use as an assessment? Can we agree on one? And we put it in. Your learning plan is a very general outline of how you're going to go through this unit. So, we might spend a couple days on this, and then we'll go to this topic, and then we'll go to this topic. It's very general. You do not have to write detailed lesson plans here. Literally, you can say, introduction to X. We're going to spend a day on that. Talk about this topic and do some activities. That's 3 days. It just basically outlines these days that you have indicated up here in the duration of the unit. So that can be done over the summer as well. And then the resources, what are the resources that you need to successfully teach this unit? So you want to list anything that you want, technology tools, what resources do you rely on? If there's things that are hands-on things like manipulatives, you want to list what they are, because this is basically saying to a new teacher, if they get this, if I don't have that, I need to get it to be able to be successful. So a lot of times what we ask is our writers have the top box, all of stage 1, they try to have the learning plan and the resources listed out before they come back to school in September. Then as you work in September, you update your evidence and you make corrections as needed as you work with the team. So that sets you up for success. I hope this helps. You want to do this for every unit that you need to complete. As always, if you have any questions, by all means, please reach out to us and we will be able to answer them. All right. Thank you.